And we are live.
All right, so welcome everyone to the very first episode of Shooting the Crit, little talk show idea we all had, where a bunch of DMs get together and you guys get to ask us a bunch of questions. I'm Bill Bug with Forever DMs, a world crafter for Astral Table.
I'm Gabriel Miller, one of our many DMs here in Forever DMs, and an all-around nerd.
And I am Jacob Ebelhair, another of the Forever DMs. Currently just playing in them, but we got to do that too. So,
Well, what we want to discuss today was something that's close to our heart because it basically gave birth to Forever DMs. If something good comes out of this, it's running a D&D game or playing in a D&D game during a pandemic.
Yeah.
So we have a series of questions that some of you have sent us before this, and we're going to do something really fun. All of us have a 20-sided die, and we get to roll off and see who gets to ask the first question. So
All right.
beat a 16.
Nope.
in proper Jacob fashion, that is a 4. So, kick off.
On brand. All right. So first question out of the gate. What tools have you found more useful or easy to use in prep slash gameplay, and how have they impacted your story's experience?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in first on that one. Uh, the ability to transition from a tabletop experience to a virtual tabletop has been absolutely invaluable. We predominantly use Astral Table here at Forever DMs, but there are other options out there. Roll20, Foundry, something about a rodeo.
Owlbear Rodeo. It's a free one. It's
Thank you.
not bad. I still prefer Astral, but
Well, I mean, you work for them, so.
He's not biased at all.
Not at all.
I liked it before that.
This is true. I can vouch.
I liked it before that.
Using virtual tabletops to even get to play has been just a lifesaver for our groups as well as like myself as an individual trying to survive right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've throughout the year, several of us have been playing together for a hot minute here. And we've even just through the year have gone through a few different iterations of which ones we've used. I mean, we've used Roll20, we've used Astral. Just echoing the fact that like Astral has been fantastic for us as far as a place that we've landed. But there's lots of great options out there. Some of which involve installations on the computer if you prefer that versus web-based. There's all kinds of different ways to go about it. But doubling down on like web-based things that have been super useful that I have found, and I believe all three of us have become patrons of it here throughout the year. Things like 5e Magic Shop are just incredible. Such an invaluable resource, and for instant like shop generation of various types of loot and things along those lines. I don't even remember what all they have. One of the really cool things that they have is just some quick reference material on like magical auras. Like, how many times have you all had a character say, I cast Detect Magic, what do I see? And you go, God, what does transmutation look like again? And like they have a quick reference sheet of stuff like that. And it's just that sort of stuff is out there and is just, it's phenomenal.
Even their price checker is like absolutely amazing. Just put in a magical item. It's like boom. It's like one of those little scanny thingies in like Target.
Yeah, it's God. The ability to quickly have that information at your fingertips because we're already at a computer is just astounding. How quickly you can get an answer to a player instead of, oh God, let me look that up. Oh, not that book. Like
yeah.
It's
and many of us DM'd with like a laptop off to the side for quick reference stuff.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to get back to in-person play, but having literally 4 screens in front of me with, the tabletop here, the group chat here, the price checker and Google Doc of this random culture I came up with, and then, another one over here. There have definitely been some boons to the whole process.
Oh, look, my dramatis personae.
Yeah, literally the last game. Yeah.
It's
How many people are dead? Hang on.
um, but feeding off of what Jacob and Gabe said, I was lucky in the aspect that before this hit, I was already playing D&D with a very awesome group of people from California. They were my first ever foray into playing D&D online, and it's bare bones. Yeah, you can go in, learn a VTT, and if you do, I highly suggest Astral. It's amazing. Um, but we just use Tabletop Simulator for them, and it's literally just some minis on a table. It's as close as you can get to like playing D&D again. And that, we don't even use cameras. It's just straight up voice over a table playing with some people. It's D&D. And there's easy ways out there. There's people that play it just through Discord. They don't even use, they just throw images and things up, use theater of the mind. There's ways out there to play D&D. It's as grandiose and as simple as you would want it to be.
Absolutely. And being able to continue that through our pandemic experience. Bill, you live in Tennessee. We have the ability for those of us who live in Kentucky to still play with you. And there will be some aspect of that continuing forward no matter what we do. And we're just building that resource and infrastructure through necessity right now. And it's been so cool. Great example of the things that these VTTs have been able to give us the ability to do. There is a charity called Extra Life that we participated in this year, and we had people in Kentucky and people in Tennessee playing the same D&D game, and we raised over $2,000 for Northern Children's.
And another guy in Pennsylvania.
And another guy, that's right. Brandon was in Pennsylvania at the
Brandon
time.
was in Pennsylvania at that point.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that.
Right.
Yeah.
See, there you go. Yeah, I mean, this is literally what started what we have become here on this channel, and everything that we have done over the past few months was that event, and would not have been possible without everything technology-wise that went into it, and everything that we were able to leverage to pull that off.
What forever DMs kind of grew into. But speaking towards the subject of the question, tools that help DMs online. Another one, great website called D&D Speaks, or DM Speaks. It's just a series of just some of the most random things you could possibly think of. Random books in a library. Click a button, boom, random books. Some of them are absolutely hilarious. Some of them on the serious aspect.
I
You
have
guys
their
saw it in
tavern generator bookmarks.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. I love that. That is bookmarked in my DM folder whenever I just need something random. It's like it's one of my go-tos along up there of like 5e.
I'll throw for atmosphere and immersion, I'll throw tabletop audio on top of that one. Is it .com? Let's just click the button. Tabletopaudio.com. They've got a Patreon. Great stuff that you can literally download straight off their website and use in your games.
Works very well in Astral.
Yeah, I almost exclusively use their tracks because I could layer a fire over the sound of a cave, over the sound of this and that and the other, or I can just take stuff that they've already made and use it.
We played in a game for Gabriel's birthday. I think it was one of the last times I've physically been in Jacob's presence. We played Dread, and you ran a Dread game and used the Nostromo um, audio, and oh my god, that was so creepy.
Yeah.
It was very immersive.
Then being able to turn off all the lights and just have like LEDs going. It's a ton of fun.
And you know, honestly, like there's a ton of different options out there for audio play, and I mean even just YouTube. There are YouTube playlists available for all sorts of different stuff. Even before the pandemic here, the last major campaign that I ran, um, Brandon, who did the Extra Life event with us, has been remote in my games for a while, as well as another friend of mine that lives in northern Kentucky, a couple hours away. So I had some pre-experience to the pandemic with online play, although it was always at a table, but with a screen set up and people playing remotely alongside those that were at the table. So it was a nice combination of things that came with its own its own set of issues that we had to work around. Because if you think it's easy to get talked over in when everybody is in Discord together, try it when only two people are in Discord and
Yeah,
them
man.
not be involved in things. Um, yeah, it's an experience, and I'm sure we will come back to that sort of thing again because we have friends that live all over the place and we want to play games with them. But
Like
I
me
mean,
in Tennessee.
I've used YouTube for a long time at this point. At one point in time, I used a really cool platform called Sirenscape. It was a little heavy for my tastes. Had some amazing options of things that you could do with it if you wanted to spend the time with it. You could literally set up like a full three-dimensional like audio tracks coming from different directions. There was one time that I spent enough time with it leading up to things that I had audio cues coming from specific directions in a room, and when people would have survival checks or perception checks, I could play something from a specific direction. And because of the varying audio tracks around things, I was like, well, did you hear? And I would play it again. And like they would have to decide their direction based on it. They got a really good roll. I'd make sure they picked
Yeah.
correctly. But
It's exciting.
um,
It's amazing.
there's just so much stuff out there to use. Like I said, Sirenscape was a little heavy for my taste. I just didn't have the time to mess with it. But so many good tools to
But
have at your disposal.
there's also, like Jacob's saying, there's a lot of really good tools out there for when you're playing D&D. But you can use as much as you want, or you can use them as little as you want.
Mhm.
Um, Going back to the DM that I have that's in California, amazing DM. He's great. He uses Tabletop Simulator, uses the audio on it, plays some Diablo music, and it's still some of my favorite D&D. And not too complicated. It's great.
Yeah, and it feels to me like that goes way back into D&D roots, where you've got a piece of paper with a map drawn on it, and you're running with it. As we're talking about online play, there's all sorts of great map drawers and editors out there that. Heroic Maps being one we feature often in our streams, or Dynamic Dungeons, both artists from overseas. Uh, you know, Beautiful maps with the flowing water and the wind and the trees. Or I can walk to the other side of this room here and grab the 3M 1-inch grid pad and draw something out. Because,
Yep.
it is difficult to do that while we're online in this medium, but because we are in this medium, we have access to those maps that are out there for use. Really, kind of coming full circle. There are just so many really cool options, and I'll actually throw one more out there. A website called Donjon. It,
I was gonna bring it up if you didn't.
yeah,
I've used it for a long time.
donjon.bin.sh.
Yeah, it's got a weird. You can search it
Escaping
super
me.
easy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Their random dungeon generator is awesome. I've
Yeah.
actually used it.
Yep.
It's really great.
Yep.
Random treasure generators, and even if you go all the way back to other systems like Pathfinder or even AD&D, they still support that stuff on their website.
Oh yeah.
So
One of the things that I love about that one is that if you generate a shop, It doesn't just generate you the inventory, it gives you a name. It gives you the proprietor of the shop with a description of what it is that just all sorts of auto-generated fluff to work with that is just it's
Yeah.
so good.
Premium. Absolutely premium.
5e Magic Shop does the same thing, and
Yeah, yeah.
one thing I noticed, and I don't know if it's something that was new, but you can actually put up character art for the generated shopkeeps now in your 5e Magic Shop.
Oh, that's
Oh, cool.
exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
I'll have to go
really
check
great.
that out.
I didn't
I
even
I
know
haven't
that.
I haven't run over to them in a while. I'll have to see what kind of updates they got going
Yeah,
on.
same. Same.
All right, we want to move on to the next question.
Yeah, I think we could sit here and talk any single question to death, so we should probably move on to the next one.
We're DMs, man. We can pull it out of our butts.
We're
So-
pretty good at talking
No.
when we need to. So yeah. So are we rolling off for this one as well? Or are we just
Yeah,
changing
we'll
up
roll off.
to-
You crushed me. I rolled a 1. So why don't you go ahead and take the next one?
Yeah. All right, Jacob, you go.
I also rolled a 1.
Oh,
if you'd
I
like
mean, if
to
we're
know.
re-rolling,
Oh yeah,
I rolled a 12. Ha!
I rolled an 11.
Take
There you go.
that.
There you go, Gabe. This one's you.
Okay,
Good
so
question.
what steps do you take in your group to bring back the feel of community in your games, and what aspects of the game cannot be replicated with online play? Snacks.
So I can start in on this one. So I've actually only DM'd a handful of times this year. I've done more playing than I have DMing for a change. But the couple of one shots and things that I've done, the biggest thing that really became quickly apparent to me is paying very close attention to when somebody starts to say something and stops, and ensuring that that does not get overlooked, and coming back to them and being willing, once whoever wound up talking finishes out, to be like, okay, Gabe, looked like you were going to do something there. Did you have something you wanted to do, kind of thing? And it's not perfect, but that sort of thing is important at a table as well. You always want to make sure that you get back around to people, but it's just even more so important whenever you're playing with an online medium like this, I think. And also important from a player, not even just as a DM. I mean, the number of times that as a player, I've helped facilitate that in things of helping keep an eye on when somebody started to say something and helping circle back around to it, or making sure that doesn't get overlooked. Doing your part at the table to ensure that everybody has their time and their moment to interact and be a part of things, I think really helps ensure that happens, whenever you're dealing with an online medium like this.
I agree.
I completely agree with all of that. I know one of the aspects going in that I missed, as a DM, I always used a GM screen. I mean, not just does it give the fear in the hearts of the players a little bit, a suspense of what's played, also gives you that buffer to protect those lower level characters. Like, oh, it critted twice
Sometimes.
in a row. But as a player rolling in front of people, I miss the oohs when you get a crit, the oh when you get a 1. With using Tabletop Simulator, I started using dice on the table, and that was something that I found missing, and I started using random dice generators, especially like D&D Beyond's got an amazing setup now. You hit their little animated dice, and it shares it with everyone, and you still can grab that piece of community. And I know some people still like rolling their dice. I still love rolling
Guilty.
my dice.
I'm 100% guilty on it.
But I had to sacrifice that a little bit because I missed that so much, that community feel. Another aspect of is something that we started doing at the end of our games, the accolades. That's something that's helped bring that community feeling back with playing D&D, and that's for those of you that watch Thrain, that watch Breakfast and Dragons here on our channel. At the end of our games, typically everyone goes around and says and points out who they think did something amazing during the game that day. And what I mean by amazing, it's like a piece of role play, funny joke, something in combat, just something. And at the end of it, the DM points someone out and chooses that person to have inspiration for the next game. And it allows everyone to, just open up and communicate that, we're having a good time. A good time.
It also, in my opinion, like it helps keep people vested in what other people are doing during the game, right? Because you're gonna get called on at the end of the game to say something that you thought was cool. And if you're not paying attention, you don't have something to say, then that kind of makes you look like a bit of a schmutz. So it inadvertently keeps people vested in what other people are doing, paying attention, and that's important at every table. And it's some like accolades 100% are something that I will carry through to every game I ever run, or ever I'm a part of, like from now until the end of time. I adore that tradition, and I think Gabe can attest to this. We had a group that we actually had a rough patch in there at one point, and accolades were a huge part in kind of getting us back on track together and really feeling more whole as a table again. What accolades just 100% are amazing.
And honestly, we have two other players in our group to thank for that.
We do.
Patrick and Derek, who've been playing together for many, many years, came into our circle through various friendships, and I like to creep on their games, which will bring me to the next thing that I think is important about community. But I like to creep in on their games, even on a night I'm not playing. If they're playing with their friends, I love to listen. I'm the total D&D voyeur, like all the podcasts, all the streams, all of it. And I heard them doing it, and I thought,
yeah,
this is such a cool idea, and adopted it, brought it into our games, and kind of made it our own in little ways. And honestly, hands down, thank you to the both of them, to Derek and Patrick. And the way that I creep on their games is Discord. Much like Astral Table, we are not sponsored by them, but boy, do we use them a lot. We have a Discord server up for the Forever DMs.
You can find the link down below in the about section if you care to give it a look.
Let's see, looking at the Streamlabs, it's right down now. But we have the ability to chat throughout the day, and it's all in one place. We've got sub chats for this and groups for that, and yada yada. It can get as complicated or as simple as you want it, much like we've discussed earlier. But the ability to have a continuing conversation with your group of players throughout the week in one place has been just amazing. And
with us playing bi-weekly, putting notes up.
Yeah.
Just a simple act of a place to put notes.
Yes.
From the game before.
And there's a ton of tools out there to do that sort of stuff. What is it? Forge Anvil or something like that. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is.
Getting into stuff I don't even know about.
There's a ton of stuff out there that are really great DM tools for that sort of thing, putting up notes and having a means of tracking party notes and information and all sorts of things along those lines. If you don't want to go to the full extent of having a Discord server, even if you're just playing fully, pen and paper, having somewhere to digitize your notes where people can reference it in some way, shape, or form is a huge help in between games.
Absolutely.
And Discord is something that I have used for, gosh, I'm pretty sure my Discord server's been up for the better part of 5 years at this point. That's strictly just used for my D&D games. We predominantly use Forever DMs at this point, but I still have that other one that has all my players in it, and there's a ton of there's a history of a 2-year campaign that exists in that Discord server. It just having that stuff around, the nostalgia and being able to go back and look at it. And I still to this day, I get people that ping in to that 2-year campaign that hasn't been played in over 2 years at this point, and somebody will link a random GIF or reference something that happened in the game, and people pop back in and chat about it, and that sort of stuff. And it's just, I love that sort of thing.
The second half of this question I'm struggling with a little bit. What aspects of the game cannot be replicated with an online play? I miss my minis.
Oh my
Dude.
God.
They're on the wall over there.
Yeah, it's like they're
And
right around.
I brought up my fanciest ones, particularly the ones that Gabe painted.
Like I just got this guy right before it happened.
Look at that beauty.
Yeah, he
Painted by our
mad.
very own Gabriel Miller. He's so mad.
He mad, bro.
He's so mad.
So-
This guy will make an appearance in my next campaign. It's gonna happen.
For those that follow me that are here from my Twitter, not just the Forever DM's Twitter, I'm a miniature painter also, and I love painting my minis. Gabriel is too. We love them.
Throw paint in the general direction of a miniature, and occasionally it comes out halfway decent.
I technically own paints.
I think I bought them for you.
I don't think I've
Sure you
ever
did.
seen Jacob pick up a brush. Like when I walked into his house the first time to play a D&D game, the amount of unpainted minis up on a shelf, I
Well-
wanted to give him like a thing of tea and a blanket and be like, "Come with me. You don't have to live this
Well,
way."
it's his own version of 50 Shades of Grey, is what it is.
Ray never goes out of style. Okay.
Well, we'll get some colored Krylon and dry brush some highlights on there, just to so all your orcs are green, like all your kobolds are red.
By comparison, while you loved your painted minis, I do 3D printing. So I love printing my minis and getting to use those at tables and unveil them. And that is absolutely something. Getting to utilize those things and watching players go, "Oh my God, look at that thing!" You can get it a little bit if you get really good art, but it's just not the same thing.
I've
It's
been getting that
just
from my
not the
maps.
same thing. Yeah.
That's how I've been getting it lately. That oh my God is how I've been building my maps in game.
Oh, that underwater scene from
Last
freaking
episode.
B&D on Saturday. Oh, so good.
Or the whole Mass
Badass.
Effect game.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't stream it, but we ran this Mass Effect one shot that was like 4 to 6 hours long for my birthday in the year that shall not be named. And the maps that Bill came up with, just insane, absolutely beautiful.
You ask if we have enough followers that want us to run that game, we can try to do it.
Hey, Mayday will make a reappearance. She a hot mess.
Pretty sure
yeah,
I have room for a hot mess in that one.
I,
But I'll
I'm-
go play
I'm-
with some more nanobots. Let's do it.
I miss my minis, but I have to add, like, Hero Forge did like this absolute great thing, and they have their colored mini painter that that's up on Hero Forge. Those not familiar with Hero Forge, you can actually pre-paint your minis through Hero Forge. You can actually pay $9 and download your painted miniature that you did yourself in a 3D form and put it on Tabletop Simulator, and that has helped some. I was able to do that with my paladin, Abel, the Minotaur paladin named Abel.
The holy cow.
The holy cow, the holy cow, the battle cattle, as they like to call him,
The divine bovine.
the divine bovine. I haven't heard that one. That was a good one. And he's playing in Avernus, so he's he's literally in the oven.
He's well done.
Yeah, I was
Sounds
able
delicious.
to actually put his mini down on the table, and
Yeah.
that feeling came back
Yeah.
of, I painted that in a digital medium, but I painted that.
Yeah.
I've got to concur with the minis. I am not nearly as good of a painter as Bill is, but one of our last games we were playing before the formation of Forever GMs, Jacob printed off the miniatures that we had designed, and I painted them for us both. And a pair of a quad of all brothers, but the building of a map in person. Bill is the supreme guy for this, but he built for himself and for myself a TV box that lays flat, and
Using it as a monitor right now.
yeah, yep. But the ability to project a map onto a flat TV on the table and then build up with that, with a tree and ruins and just that 3D feel that no matter what you do, you cannot replicate from a digital format. It's just it adds a whole nother element to the game. And I'll be honest, I am a tactile person, so being able to touch those things and feel them and interact with them is a huge part of the feel of being there for me.
That's a big part of why I have been so resistant to giving up rolling my dice in my hand. It is my last physical connection to
Yeah.
D&D at a table, and I just I need it.
Yeah. And there's a balance to be struck there.
Sure.
Great example. Bill and I were chatting about his last Breakfast and Dragons game, and my character, Ben Yahim, rolls all of his initiatives with advantage because of an item that he has from Sandy Peterson's book. So, just to keep that fair for everybody, I will be macro rolling that every single time going forward.
Because luckily within Astral Table, you can set up a initiative roll that always rolls at
Yeah,
advantage.
and then that way, it automatically, speaking of tools that we have right now, it will
right.
automatically take that initiative roll that I made and plug it directly into an initiative tracker right in that website.
Yep.
But in combat and skill checks and all of that, I have actually gone from, oh, this is cool, I'm going to program all the things. That's my Kermit programming arms. But I've gone from that to leaning back the same direction as Jacob, just rolling the dice. I bought a brand new set of dice,
I'm worried about it. The only thing that worries me is losing the talent of doing it without electronics. Right now, I could do it, but building a character without D&D Beyond might be on the struggle bus a little bit.
D&D Beyond is such an integral part of what the game is right now. They have cemented themselves into the game at this point. I will be shocked if we get another edition of Dungeons and Dragons down the road without D&D Beyond.
I think they'd have a revolt on their hands
Yeah.
if that happened. To be honest with you,
we've had this conversation amongst ourselves many times. Going back to that tactile feel, having the physical book versus having a digital book. I can have the PDF all day long, but when I've got the physical book, it just makes so. There it is. I ordered mine, by the way. I used that discount code. It just makes so much of a difference to have it, to physically hold it. I'm going to be putting a shelf right here for all my D&D books.
That's what I did. It's right here. You can't see it for the green screen. Technically, Baby Yoda sitting on top of it. But do we want to? Let's see. We've spent half the show on 2 questions.
Yeah, I was just about to say it is probably well due time for us to move on to another one.
And if you have any questions in chat, please feel free to pop them up. We'll answer them too. Right now, we just have some go-tos for people that have sent us beforehand. So let's see. Gabriel's read one. Jacob's read one. I'll read one.
I actually have not read one
hasn't. Yeah.
The two of you all have read one, so unless you want to keep
take it.
rolling for it, I can
Nope,
go pick one
go
real
for it.
quick. All right, let's see. What do we got?
Number 3.
We've kind of touched on this a little bit already, so this one might be a quick one for us. What steps do you take as dungeon masters to hold the attention of your players while playing online?
I actually
I'll take this one if you
have
don't
at
mind.
it. Yeah.
One thing I started doing, especially with doing D&D online, I had this problem at tables. Most DMs had this problem with tables, especially with D&D Beyond now. The access to social media while playing. You're sitting here, you sit here and you go to somebody else, and you're like, hey, it's your turn, Rogue, sitting over there. Oh, you're on Facebook.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Okay.
what happened?
All right. Hey, okay. Oh, you're on Snapchat. Oh, okay. You're doing a TikTok over there dancing while you should be stabbing someone. Okay. No. So holding the attention of your players, especially during online play, when they have the full access of the internet at their hands because they're using it to play D&D, is very tough. And one thing that I've found that works surprisingly well is a simple piece of artwork between scenes. It's like I call it atmospheric art. Gabriel started doing it too, and it works wonders. It could be like just some stock photos, just anything. You're in a forest, show a picture of a forest. You're in a port city, show a picture of a port city.
Yeah.
I take it to the extreme sometimes. Like I've got especially in Astral because you can set up triggers. I've got like 20 different triggers for one town. Hey, look, this is the rich section. Hey, look, this is the poor section. Hey, look, this is the port. And I kind of go a little nuts with it. But a simple picture can actually literally speak 1,000 words, and that's one of the things I've been trying to do a lot, especially during online play. I love my maps, and I love having a map that people can look at, and I try to make it as interesting as possible. But also, it involving all the players at the table. That is the number one thing, and especially it's really difficult with new players. I understand that, like some of them haven't come out of their shells yet. Some of them just hasn't got what D&D is. They're people that really want to play, but they haven't figured it out yet. It's these people is shine the spotlight on them, and if they look a little uncomfortable, shine the spotlight on somebody else. But it's like help them. We were all everyone at the table, everyone in internet land, everyone doing a podcast, everybody, we were that person at one time sitting at that edge of the table just wanting to know what this game was. And everybody can think about it, someone took them under their wing. Somebody taught them the game.
Agreed.
But
and even different aspects of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever my first introductions to actual D&D, like at a table, was with what was effectively a bunch of power gamers. Like the story was this, but like I was right there with them at the time. I was playing World of Warcraft. I was, video games were my experience with all of this stuff. So we were all playing it like a video game.
Yeah.
That was what we were doing, and we were fine with that.
So you played with 2000 era Gabriel too, huh?
Hey now.
My point is, like, even people that have been playing for a long time, sometimes there is a jump start of realizing there is a different way to look at this. There is a different perspective of how to approach the game, and we can get into an entire philosophical question around what D&D is to you and all that kind of business, because everybody has a different game that they play. But sometimes all it takes is like a spark in those moments to be like, wait, you just described an Eldritch Blast, and that is not how I picture it in my head. You can do that? Like, it's not just the base description. You can reskin things. You can be thematic. You can have those moments, and not everybody's aware of that out the box, And it can be a literal game changer whenever you see that, and it's different. I'm going off on a tangent here, and I don't mean to, but
I actually want to take that tangent and plug it directly back into the question because I think it's super valuable.
Go for it.
As a dungeon master, what steps do you take to hold the attention of your players was the question, right? but what about as a player? You know, what you just
I'm
said.
gonna
I'm a drow warlock, and I pull up the sphere of darkness and cast mist beyond it. What does it look like? Well, this
right.
Yeah.
rolling cloud of darkness washes over everyone, blowing their cloaks and hair back, and suddenly the other players are like, "Whoa, that's cool." You know,
Uh,
we have that mutual responsibility. D&D is at its core cooperative storytelling, and this is my tiny philosophical soapbox. It is at its core cooperative storytelling, and so we can help each other stay engaged by engaging ourselves. If you have a whole table of super interactive people, in this case a virtual table, where we're describing the fight at the end of our last B&D session was a great example. You know, the way you were swinging and Killian was bringing out gunpowder to try to participate, and I was using telepathic powers. You know, all of this, the way we were engaging together builds the story in our minds. It's the difference between, you know, reading a boring script versus watching the thing happen before you.
yeah.
And building off of what both of you said, adding a little bit to what Jacob said first, there's this term going around in the D&D world online I absolutely hate. People call it the Matt Mercer effect. And they're like, the Matt Mercer effect is, oh God, my DM saw an episode of Critical Role and now he thinks he's Matt Mercer. No. What I think this is that a lot of us DMs, especially like DMs like me, I learned in high school, study hall. Like I had a bunch of guys that taught me how to play D&D, and then they graduated the next year and left me with a book. I had to figure some of it out myself. I had to become a DM. There's some DMs out there, you see a DM like Matt Mercer, or you see a DM in a convention or something like that, doing something you've never done before. And it's almost like them giving you the permission. It's like, oh, I never really thought of that. I never really thought that as a DM, I could have fun. Like, I could really go deep into my NPCs. I can really do anything like that. So I'm happy for the quote unquote Matt Mercer effect because it's basically a bunch of DMs out there that didn't realize they could have that much fun being a DM. And it gives you the freedom. It's like you see someone out there doing it, you're like, oh, okay, that's okay
It's
to
like
Right.
be that way.
it's like your high school imagination taking charge again.
And but another thing that I wanted to add when it came to you is a quote from actually I was listening to it this morning while I was doing my day job. The Sandy Peterson Call of Cthulhu book is a book that plays a lot into my personal game. Gabriel and I have been reading it a lot. One of the things that he states in it, he goes, the first rule of role playing game is don't use jargon. Is you can sit there and say, okay, well, I'm walked up, and the creature is going to roll an initiative, acts on initiative count 21. It rolls, it hits with an attack doing 3d 10.9 bludgeoning damage and, plus 2d6 acid. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. But what's more interesting, saying that or saying that this eldritch-like creature comes up from the ground and snatches out this pseudopod, smacking the side of your face, and all of a sudden you just start burning and the singeing and smoking of your flesh. You take 2d8 poison.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's more interesting. That engages the player.
And everybody starts somewhere, right? Like
Yeah.
realizing that you don't have to read everything from a book when it comes from it. Like you do not need to read the math equation behind what happens in this scenario. It's give the theme, give the thematics of what is occurring, and worry about the numbers after.
Yeah.
Like the numbers aren't important until somebody needs to write something down. Get them engaged first. I do want us to transition from this because we have a question from chat that is very relevant to this kind of talk here. Irish Draven asked, is it harder to get new players out of their shell online versus in person? If so, how do you help them grow in their role playing?
I actually want to jump on this.
Absolutely.
Um, uh, is it harder? That's going to entirely depend on the person. I'll give you two examples. One, not being at a physical table gives you the anonymity of the internet. You know, it's the same reason we have trolls on YouTube and all these people making these awful statements to people. It's because they're disconnected. There's an anonymity to it. Just having, these are two of my best friends that I'm chatting with right now, but Bill is my longest relationship at this point in my life. We've been together forever. You know,
Ever?
but there's a disconnect. We know each other super well, but this does not have the same drive as playing in person. And for some people, that anonymity will provide them a more room to blossom, especially people that have some example insecurities with speaking in public. The moment you're around a group of people, there can be a clamming up, a disconnect there. So for those people, that kind of general category one, those people will often find an easier time opening up and role playing in this digital medium because there is not the stress or pressure of performing in front of people.
It helps some people just separate from their anxiety of the moment.
Absolutely. And then the other category of that is, column B or category two will be the folks that the online medium is actually more difficult. For myself, it took me the first 4 months of the pandemic to figure out how to play D&D online. I'm involved. I'm into the social aspect. I need the peoples. I need to be able to reach over and touch them. And there's no Jacob or Bill here. So for more social creatures, it may be more difficult to open up and begin blossoming and role playing online. That being said, to come to the second part of the question, it may be harder or easier for different people. We're all different. We've all got different needs. But the second half of that question is, how do we help them grow? And I'm going to tag straight back into the describing things. We use descriptions of that Eldritch Blast or that dark rolling fog or the swing of your sword, Oliver. We use these descriptions as ways to describe how we're behaving in combat. And that, to me, the action-packed adrenaline part of the role-playing is easier to grab than the intense negotiation with the kings of two nations who've been warring for 3 generations. That will be a little more difficult from my perspective only, will be a little more difficult for somebody who's a little rawer or newer to role-playing. But encouraging that, okay, so how did you throw your dagger? How did you shoot that bow? Like, tell me how you did it. And that little bit of action-packed role-playing really kind of helps those people grow, in my opinion.
The prompting in those moments to get people thinking of like, oh, it's not just I shoot it with the bow and it dies. It's we've all used this term. It gets used a lot these days. The how do you want to do this, right? Like, how does that occur? How do you see this happening in your head? How do you want to be a badass in this moment?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be. One of the big things that like I came to like a personal moment with is like it doesn't always have to be badass. What happens in the story because of what just occurred? Sometimes it's really cool to be badass, right? Like everybody loves being badass, but sometimes you have those moments to influence the story. Yeah, mechanically, as far as 5e is concerned, you don't have to deal lethal damage to anything, right? So you can have that moment, and the DM says, "How do you want to do this?" You can make that decision right then to not kill that thing. and then deal with the aftermath in RP, right? Like that is the power of the player in that moment, to decide what happens. It's not just the DM telling the story, it's the player telling it with the DM. It's the collaborative storytelling, that occurs in those types of moments, that I think are really important to bring to the attention of players, especially those that are trying, that seem like they want to branch out but aren't sure how. Involve them in those moments and those decisions, so that it's not just the DM telling the story; it's a story together. Um,
I think
and
some
when
people forget that. I think it, some people do forget. This is not just the GM story. It shouldn't ever be only the GM story. The GM
Mhm.
might bring up the framework, but it's everyone's collective story. And we all look at chat.
We look at
Yeah.
chat as one of our other forever DMs says, "Wait, choosing not to kill a thing? What foreign language is this?"
I mean, he
I
was a
mean,
necromancer in the last game, so
to each their own. You just bring them back whenever you want to. It's fine.
yeah.
Um, uh, but no, I 100%. Um, Making sure players understand that it is a collaboration. The game is there to be played together. I view D&D as the penultimate cooperative game. There is nothing else like it. There are, I mean, tabletop RPGs in general, not just D&D, honestly. All things are, when you're telling a story, should be told together. Um, and that ties into the paying attention to what other people are doing, being vested in their story, like being a part of something bigger than just yourself, uh, plays such a huge role in coming out of that shell.
And as players and DMs, sometimes we'll see, going back to that question from the chat, we'll see somebody kind of lagging behind, or having a hard time grasping the moment. And as players, we should open the door for that other player to have the opportunity, if they choose to take it. Hey, I'm going to use Jacob's character in the other game, Oliver. Ben walks up to Oliver. My friend, how are you feeling? You've been quiet today. Prompting the other player to
Yeah,
have that opportunity. And if they choose not to take it, that's okay. But
right.
we are intentionally reaching out and sharing the spotlight. And Bill is great as a GM about making sure to come back to each other player and give them that opportunity to shine. And I think as GMs and as players, that is how we help coax people out of their shells. Is we show them that this is a team effort, this is cooperative, and we're here to help each other.
if
And
if I if
sorry, go ahead.
if I see a new player struggling, and not just struggling to understand, but a lot of D&D players that have been playing for a long time, they really they can run a table. And I mean, it's
Mhm.
sometimes they don't realize they're doing it, and that's fine. The really good players will realize, hey, I've had the spotlight too long. Let's hand it over to someone else. But if I see a new player really struggling to take the spotlight away, not wanting to take the spotlight away from a more experienced player because they feel like they're ruining the story. That's like one thing I hear. I feel like I'm going to ruin the game. I will purposely plan for I will plan an event around that. Like if the party is scouring this dark city trying to contact the Thieves Guild, they've put feelers out, they've talked to the local fences, everything like that. They're just trying to get this secret Thieves Guild to talk to them. I might, instead of having everyone roll a perception check to find one of the agents in a marketplace, I might have one of them bump into said player, flipping a note into their hand and whispering in their ear, meet me at the docks, midnight, and like walking off. And then boom, it's in their court.
Yep,
Yeah,
What are they going to do?
right.
The spotlight's on them.
I love it. Sharing the spotlight.
Sharing the spotlight is a huge part, and what's even better is that as you grow that at your table, and especially if you take the time to talk to your players about it, if they're not already doing it themselves, A lot of times most players will pick it up based off of example. So like as you do it, they will see it and be like, "Oh, I can do that too." And they will introduce some of those moments themselves as time progresses. But the more a table does that together, the less the DM even has to do.
Yeah.
And it's a thing of beauty when the DM just gets to sit back and go, no, go ahead.
I'm
Y'all,
enjoying
y'all
this.
got it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Just make an
I
occasional
am enjoying your all story. Let me jot that down.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah. It's the best.
Some of the best D&D games I played in as a DM is one that I didn't have to say anything.
Yep.
Barely anything.
Absolutely. I would love to push us on to the next question if I could.
Absolutely.
Um,
Iris Draven, thank you very much for the question. I think that was a
Very
spot
good.
on transition there. That was great. Thank you.
let's see, we got three left, and
It is 3 till 8, and we were slated to go for an hour. I don't have a problem going a little bit over, but do we any particular questions you really want to get to here?
The next one. That's
next one.
That's why I'm wanting to push this on. It's kind of near and dear to my heart here.
Okay, then we'll definitely go over the next one. Do you want to call the next one our last one?
Good by me.
Okay.
All right.
I'll read it because Gabe seems chomping at the bit. How has playing online helped you survive social isolation?
This is one that is super important for me. A short version for those of you watching this or in chat later. I am an individual that deals with some mental health concerns, depression, anxiety, PTSD, that kind of thing. And my fix, my survival tool for a lot of times is my social interactions with my friends. D&D is a coping mechanism full out. It is great therapy, and we will have an episode of this about that one day. But not being able to play in person, as I mentioned earlier, was a struggle for a few months. But continuing to have that connection to my friends. Bill, I mentioned, has been my best friend for. Our friendship can drink alcohol legally. I'm pretty sure at this point. We actually talk even more now because we have decided to play D&D together online.
Because we're running a stream together.
I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. Jacob and I have been dear friends for several years now, and we started this because of D&D, and that social aspect of the game, the creating friend groups, is so important for me as an individual, and I know many of you as well. And playing D&D, even in an online medium, has provided that social outlet, that mental health need for social interaction and healthy social interaction that has been just invaluable when we're isolated. I'm usually going over to friends' houses and trying to go out to a dance class or to go play D&D or go to the game store to just chat with people, or for my job I was always interacting with clients, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and I'm stuck at home with a TV and a computer and a dog and a wife, and we're all fucking miserable. So how do we build with that? And throughout the year that shall not be named, D&D has been the biggest and healthiest escape for me as an individual.
I could not agree more with that. It didn't hit me until a lot later in the year, just how much those social interactions I've been fortunate enough that, with my job as a software engineer, I'm able to continue working from home as before, and I interact with people online, and I have those interactions day to day, but uh, I, Gabe can attest, I am on the go all the time with various things that I do. I have been for years, and it really started to set in about halfway through the year on not having all of that going on. Um, and it started taking its toll. I started down my own hole of depression, and honestly, the monthly games that you all had already started at that point were a big lift for me. Um, and we still had our games that we were playing otherwise, but having something new to dive into, and then eventually what led into the Extra Life event, and things along those lines, have been a huge means of me putting my energies towards something. And I've delved so much more into how I approach D&D, and how I view characters and playing with other people. And I mean, the people that I've met through some of these games, that I may not have met otherwise. It's been it's been super important for me as well, for a lot of those same reasons, on just surviving the oddity, and yeah, uh, of what is the year that shall not be named. It has just been It's made what I already loved just that much more personally important.
What both of you said, it. I went into this completely different. I was actually working in healthcare at the beginning of the year that shall not be named, um, to the point that I was coming home and dripping out of my scrubs and taking a shower before I even hugged my daughter and my wife. Um, to the point messaging Gabriel of I had a donor come to the center today that possibly could have had corona. Um, dealing with that, being quarantined multiple times, just in case. Having to make that decision to step away from a job I thoroughly enjoyed, drawing blood for people, um, for the safety of my family, and entering a career of work from home. It allowed me, yes, it allowed me to finally get a dream job working within the gaming company with Astral Table. Also having another job to pay the bills, but all of it worked from home, and I went from just seeing my wife, just seeing my child. Uh, yeah, D&D has been an escape, and I play a dedicated game every week on Sunday nights. Um, I play in 2 bi-weekly games. One I run on this channel, Play in Thrain, run DM by Gabriel, and I DM Breakfast and Dragons in my personal world, Straterra. And it's been amazing to be able to just interact and step out and stop being stuck in a house, you know.
Just the mental escape has been so invaluable. And I think that, we're going to rock off on the questions, but the last question was, has the game's importance changed for you and why? And I think absolutely it has only become more important to me for my sense of community, my sense of family, using it as a giving back through charity events like Extra Life, and a way to storytell.
Honestly, going to that question, have the game's importance changed? Yeah, it has, to agree with Gabe. And that was one thing going into when we decided to take the Forever DMs from the Extra Life event and do a channel such as this. Is I I don't care how many viewers we get. Um, if we touch one person and help introduce one person to D&D, and that person's life is better for it, everything we do on this channel is worth it.
Absolutely.
Um, sharing our experiences over the years. With the amount of D&D I've played, Gabriel and Jacob, ourselves, I think we've come to the point to where collectively we're over 75 years of experience playing D&D.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
I'm completely fine with it. If a DM has a question, player has a question, anybody has a question they want to ask, it's like, yeah, I'll listen to anything. I'll answer anything. It's like I'm here because I just want to share what we do.
Yeah.
Inspire new players, inspire old players. Because no one's really a master at this game. There's always something new we can learn.
Agreed.
And every person that you play with will approach it differently.
Yeah.
So just you never know what you're going to learn from somebody else. Somebody that just thinks a little bit outside of the box. It's like, God, I wouldn't have done that. That's awesome. And it just
I've never seen that power utilized that way.
There's nothing else just quite like it.
The Accolade's a great example. Something we learned from another group, from people who are now playing with us. These spell descriptions and really getting into them. One of our players who's in both my and Bill's games is an absolute fiend for spell descriptions. And if you don't describe it, he will ask you what happens.
Yeah.
And, that kind of communal storytelling, as seems to come full circle constantly, has made the game that much better for all of us.
And it's not just spells and powers. Like, when it comes down to it, it's become a running gag now. But my character in Thrain, I wanted to play a samurai that enjoyed all the aspects in life. And Gabriel's like, everybody can get one non-combat feat. And looking through all of the new feats, I saw Chef and immediately fell in love with it because I was a cook for a long period in my life. And so I get very descriptive on what Jubei cooks for dinner.
Yeah.
And
it just brings so much flavor to the class.
And we actually have one of our viewers goes by Tiffers. Every time after Thrain, she's like, "That was my favorite part." So Jubei cooks. We're gonna turn that into a hashtag, man.
But yeah, being descriptive of what you do is it just adds to immersion. And immersion's like the number one thing is people need to just understand that it's okay. It's okay to be a ham. It's okay to be out there. It's okay to be silly. It's back during my Renaissance Festival days, there's one term that I've used. It's actually the motto for my painting company now. It's called Dare to Suck. It's called go out there, just do it, dare to suck. It's like you're going to be bad at it, so what?
Yeah.
You'll get better. You get better, dare to suck.
The immersion adds to the escapism, which has just been so important this year and has increased the value of the game to me immensely.
Embracing your imagination and just letting it run.
Well, what is the sentence everybody makes fun of with D&D? It's like it's built on the strongest processor, the human imagination.
The voice killed it, man.
Oh man!
Thank you, everybody who tuned in to watch us tonight. Thank you so much. This is the first episode of Shooting the Crit. Any closing statements, guys?
Just as a note, I believe our intent is to start probably doing this on our off weeks. We do run a bi-weekly schedule with our games of Threen and Breakfast and Dragons. So unfortunately, this is not our jobs, and this does not pay the bills as much as we all wish that could be a thing. That is not how life works. So bi-weekly is as best we can do with our group, and as much as we wish that could be more often, life is what it is. So we intend to do more of these, probably in our off weeks in between. Keep an eye out on our schedule as such
Thing to
for
do is
that. And as of just recently, instead of just going to the schedule, if you look in our about section with a bunch of other information, there is a schedule there that better shows our bi-weekly schedule. Twitch doesn't do a great job of accounting for bi-weekly schedules. So definitely look at that in the about section, not just on the schedule page built into Twitch.
but also follow us on Twitter. Follow us
Yep.
on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us here on Twitch. We'll always do weekly announcements of what's playing that week. We're going to try very hard to get shows up on reruns in different time frames in case you can't get up early and have breakfast with us for Breakfast and Dragons, in case you have school on Tuesday nights and can't catch Thrain. It's different things that we will be doing and making sure that the shows get out there for you guys. Our next scheduled show, I believe, will be Thrain next week, right?
Yeah, next Tuesday will be episode 2, other than any reruns we're running throughout the week.
Correct. And I do believe we had talked about that we were going to run the Thrain rerun directly following this. Yes.
Yes, the premiere episode of Thrain will run as a rerun right
Awesome.
after this.
Yep. So
So
we'll be kicking that off. And as Bill mentioned, following us on Twitter and whatnot, I believe we will come up with a topic for what our next one will be, and we'll post some
You have
information
an
out
idea.
there. Or yeah, post to us on Twitter if you have an idea of a topic you'd like us to cover, or if we announce said topic, or whenever we announce said topic, feel free to shoot us some questions ahead of time if you want. We'll do our best to incorporate those into this year.
And no topic are controversial. We talked about magical auras, but has anyone ever really talked about how they taste?
Mostly Jubei.
yeah, mostly
I'm pretty
Jubei
sure.
and Kron. Kron, son of Kern. All right.
Oh, I thought, hi, Tiffers. All the name pop up.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and have an absolutely wonderful evening.
See you next time, guys.
Bye, guys.